Our next speaker is the Cook County Board President. She is a frequent attendee at City Club of Chicago events, for which we are enormously grateful. And it's a mark of a great leader, in my opinion, that she comes and she supports her team like she's doing today. Ladies and gentlemen, Cook County Board President, Toni Preckwinkle. Madam President.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to thank the City Club for offering this opportunity to hear more about our efforts around economic development. Many of you have heard me speak before, and you know that public health and public safety are our primary business, but I knew that Cook County can and should play a prominent role in economic development as well. Actually, I got my start working in government in the Harold Washington administration's old Department of Economic Development. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the last 5 years, and that's due in no small part to the good work of Mike Jasso and his leadership team. As Bureau Chief, Mike and his team lead both our local economic development efforts as well as shape and implement our regional economic growth initiatives. During his time as Bureau Chief, our collaboration with key partners in the private and public sector has expanded tremendously. Michael also represents the President's Office on two important boards, the Land Bank Authority of Cook County and on the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. Prior to joining Cook County, Mike served as the Managing Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Housing and Economic Development, which I think now is back to the Department of Planning and Development, for the City of Chicago. Before joining the management team of the City of Chicago, Mike worked as Special Assistant in the District of Columbia Government Office, developing and overseeing and administering the district's TIF program. He holds an undergraduate degree in architecture from Princeton and an MBA from the University of Texas in Austin. I'll end with an interesting fact. Early in his career, he served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Yemen. Please welcome Mike Jasso.
So, in the spirit of my boss, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam President, for your kind introduction and indeed for the opportunity to lead the county's economic development efforts on your behalf and under your leadership. Thank you to the City Club for inviting me to speak to you today about economic development and Cook County's work to build strong communities, thriving businesses, and sustainable jobs. It's great to be with you and see so many colleagues, partners, and friends, and dear friends here today. There are far too many for me to name you all, but I'm grateful for your interest in the future of Cook County and our role in the region and the work that we are taking on and that I've had the opportunity to be involved in. I would like to give a special thanks to all the elected, appointed, and serving public officials in the room with whom the work we here present would not be possible. This speaking opportunity is particularly significant because as a result of President Preckwinkle's leadership and commitment to economic development, this room is full of partners from businesses, governments, and the nonprofit sectors alike. I'll be honest, 5 years ago, the county was not a player at the table when it came to economic development. This has obviously dramatically changed. So to that end, I would like to start the discussion by asking a basic question. Why do counties matter? To be honest, until I started this job, I would not have been sure that I could have given a very adequate answer. So I'd like to share the short video presented by the National Association of Counties, NACO, which does what I think is a pretty good job explaining the role of counties in the United States.
Why do counties matter? Simple. Counties provide the services we all depend on. If you're concerned about crime, get a regular flu shot. Drive to work. Take public transportation. Or experience a natural disaster in your community. Chances are you benefit from county services. That's why counties matter. With America's system of federalism, counties are a key level of government, serving the people directly. So, do you vote? Had a recent hospital stay? know someone in a nursing home. More reasons why counties matter. There are 3,069 counties across the country, with populations big and small. Most of us live and work in one. Even the nation's capital is considered a county. These county governments ensure that the food you eat in restaurants is safe. They care for the mentally ill, run court systems, build local economies, and operate 911 emergency systems. They manage parks and recreation facilities. And the list goes on. Thing is, counties serve the American people in so many ways, keeping our communities healthy, vibrant, safe, and fiscally sound. That's why counties matter.
Thank you. So obviously counties are engaged in a broad array of activities. So this brings us to Cook County and what we do. Every county is a little different, and we don't do everything mentioned in that video. Historically, the county is focused on the public health and safety systems. If you have ever heard the president speak, and chances are you have, you've heard her speak about the work we do in both of these. When she became president, she decided to expand our agenda to include a strong economic development focus. Coming into office in December of 2011, one of her first actions was to establish the Bureau of Economic Development, combining the disjointed tools and incentives at our disposal. She also appointed the first ever Council of Economic Advisors, chaired by John Rogers and Bill Osborne, and asked them to develop an economic development agenda for the county. This council produced Partnering for Prosperity, which laid out 9 strategies to help guide the county. She also reconstituted the Economic Development Advisory Committee, also known as EDAC, to implement the strategies outlined in the plan and provide guidance regarding our day-to-day activities and programs. Both of these important groups are vital agents in setting our direction, and we have many members of both these groups here today, so let's have a round of applause for their service. So what exactly do we in Cook County's Bureau of Economic Development do? Well, we touch communities in many ways. Planning for Progress, a recently completed initiative, united 2 federally mandated plans into one strategic plan to facilitate the housing, community, and economic development investments of Cook County over the next 5 years. As a credit to the leadership of the President and an acknowledgement of the improved capacity within the county, this was the first time that these federal agencies had allowed the consolidation of these plans in order to gain planning efficiencies and create a holistic economic development framework. With our work, we build strong communities. Let me give you a couple of examples. Starting with our traditional economic development programs, since 2011, we have assisted more than 210 businesses, shown with dark blue dots on the map, which has stimulated more than $173 million in private investment and created approximately 2,800 jobs. You may notice we have significant clusters of projects in the areas around O'Hare International Airport, and this reflects the activity of our sizable transportation and logistics industry, as well as one of the largest concentrations of manufacturers in the region. The gold star on the map highlights the Cullerton Avenue Area Industrial Project in Franklin Park, and I'm happy to see that we have Mayor Peterson here today representing the village. The photo shows an employee of Sherway Tools, one of the 10 companies in the Cullerton industrial area. As part of this $5 million project, Cook County is providing a loan of up to $4 million, which will be used to fund public improvements, including street reconstruction, sewer, and drainage work. This is our first project under the Built-in Cook Loan Program and represents a true public-private partnership at its best, with support from local businesses, the community, the village of Franklin Park, the state of Illinois, and along with the county's Built-in Cook Loan Program, which is possible through the support of the Department of Housing, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which I believe is represented here today by Ray Willis, Director of Community and Regional Community Planning and Development for Region 5 within HUD. Thank you very much. On these projects, we've worked very closely with the previous speaker here of the City Club, with Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, so that businesses are able to recruit the talent needed to fill jobs. Karen Norrington Reeves, CEO of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, who spoke here several weeks ago, and her team now run the largest not-for-profit local workforce investment areas in the country. Their goal is to work collaboratively with businesses to train and recruit for today's jobs. In 2015, we made targeted investments in 20 infrastructure projects in the county. Since 2011, we have invested almost $50 million in community development block grants, also called CDBG funds, in Cook County at locations shown on our map. Under HUD regulations, our CDBG funds must be spent principally in suburban Cook County. Why is this? Because the City of Chicago also receives its own allocation directly from HUD, as do a number of our larger suburban municipalities. Where you see blue dots in the city, these are offices of social service agencies located within the city, but which we fund their programs that serve the suburbs. A good example of this is Catholic Charities. We also have other areas of collaboration and investment. As you know, Cook County has had its fair share of challenges with flooding and other matters related to resilience. Cook County has been working with our partners in DuPage, the City of Chicago, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, also known as CMAP, and the state of Illinois to devise a working definition of resilience that is the ability of a region to maintain and improve its quality in the face of natural disasters by reducing vulnerabilities across the interacting built, natural, and social systems, and by increasing the capacity to prepare and adapt over time. So far, the county has been fortunate as we've been awarded $83.6 million of CDBG funding for disaster relief and community resilience. As a result, Cook County has been invited to submit an application under the National Disaster Resiliency Competition, which gives access to the county to more than $1 billion of funding at the federal level, not inconsequential resources to this region, potentially. The Gold Star and photo are an example of one of our infrastructure investments in Maywood, the rehabilitation of Washington Boulevard from 2nd Avenue to 9th Avenue, where we invested approximately $1.5 million in CDBG funds for much-needed roadway improvements in this very critical community in the western suburbs. This roadway is important to both the business and residential community. As we move forward, remain keenly aware of the need for affordable housing in the county, and working with our many partners have been working to develop additional units and preserve this critical resource. Our map here highlights our affordable housing projects since 2011, with almost $22 million in home investment partnership dollars, which we received from HUD, being used to support affordable housing for veterans, seniors, disabled persons, and families alike. So the star identified shows $2.25 million loan through the home program. The photo in front of you is that of the Heinz Freedom Path project, which we worked on in partnership with the Housing Authority of Cook County and the U.S. Veterans Administration. Freedom Path is open today and provides 72 units of affordable housing for veterans as part of the Heinz VA campus. As illustrated by this project, we work closely with the Housing Authority of Cook County, which is led by Rich Minacchio, its executive director. This housing authority is the second largest public housing authority in Illinois. And like the Bureau of Economic Development, they too have their public-private partnerships that enable them to carry out their mission. Another of our partners is the Cook County Land Bank Authority, created during President Preckwinkle's first term and represents one of the president's key initiatives in economic development. The Land Bank, under the leadership of Rob Rose, who's here today, and thank you, who's the executive director, has established focus communities, which are shown in pink on the map. I guess they're a little purple on the map, which represents the communities in greatest need. The Land Bank's mission is to establish an efficient property disposition process for transferring vacant and abandoned properties to responsible parties who will return them to productive use. The Land Bank is a vital partner in our work in increasing affordable housing, generating jobs, promoting economic development, and supporting sustainable communities. Our Emergency Solutions Grant Program is a HUD program designed specifically to reduce homelessness. In 2011, almost $3.7 million in ESG funding have been invested in Cook County to serve the homeless, as shown by the green dots on the map in front of you. Our identified project here was an investment to Chicago Heights South Suburban PADS, which stands for Public Action to Deliver Shelter, of $82,000, which we did just this past year. South Suburban PAD offers a continuum of housing options, including an emergency shelter network. The photo in front of you, before you, shows one of the beneficiary of PAD services and programs proudly holding the keys to his first home. The work of, in addition to the work of our work within the Department of Planning and Development, many of you may not know that the county, through the Bureau, also administers a Department of Building and Zoning and a Zoning Board of Appeals. Together they administer and providing for zoning review in the unincorporated areas of Cook County and the forest preserves. Their work is vital to managing appropriate land use and safe construction standards in the unincorporated areas of Cook County. While unincorporated Cook County only represents a small portion, approximately 6% of the overall land area which is outside municipal boundaries, its collective population of over 100,000 individuals make it one of the state's most populous communities in its own right. Last year, after 2 years of work, Cook County adopted the International Building Codes with international best practices. Currently, building and zoning is embracing technology to offer more efficient services to the public and upcoming online permitting processes. So where are we growing strong communities and serving businesses and communities alike? Well, if you look at the map, we're doing it all over the county. So that brings us to what are we doing on the regional basis, appreciating that economies are regional. The Chicago region economy is large and impactful as many countries. It is essentially equivalent in size to that of Switzerland or Sweden. It's an economic force in its own right, and Cook County drives our mighty and diverse region. Recognizing this, we knew that we could not just focus on Cook County itself. Economic development does not stop at the county's borders, and we needed to think regionally. For indeed, global competition for investment is based on regional assets and not on discrete municipal boundaries. So that's why President Preckwinkle convened the first Regional Economic Forum in December of 2013, almost 2 years ago today. To be clear, this had not happened before, or certainly in recent history, and was long overdue. This convening included public and private economic development leaders, many of whom are here today, and the county board presidents and chairs from Cook County, as well as the City of Chicago, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, Lake, McHenry, and Will counties. And many of our colleagues from around the region, as I mentioned, are here. We've had significant success from this collaboration already. And I'll be frank, probably more than one would have expected or we would have deserved given where we started. We have 3 major initiatives underway already: strengthening the fabricated metal and machining sector, assisting small and medium businesses export and enter new markets, and streamlining the maze of permits and regulations impacting truck movements across the region. Many of you have heard the President speak to these initiatives already, so I won't elaborate on them extensively, but I would like to give you a short overview. As a result of this historic regional collaboration, the federal government designated the Chicago area as one of 24 manufacturing communities in the United States based on the strength of our metal cluster. Cook County was, in fact, the lead in this effort to bring together more than 45 organizations and municipalities to form the Chicago Metro Metals Consortium, CMMC. The metal manufacturing industry in our region is significant, and it's important that we focused on it. It consists of some 3,700 firms, over 100,000 employees, and represents over $30 billion in revenue to the region. So what does this designation actually mean for us? Well, first it means preferential treatment when it comes to competing for over $1.3 billion in federal economic development funds. For example, we have already secured some $12.6 million in federal and private funding to support the region's metal firms in areas like energy efficiency, workforce, trade, and innovation. We can now offer metal manufacturers new resources to grow their businesses through collaboration and networking, market intelligence, and the promotion of the region as a leading center for manufacturing. I would like specifically to thank the Economic Development Administration from the Department of Commerce for their ongoing support, and if she's here, Jeanette Tamayo, who's the Chicago Regional Director of the Economic Development Administration. Another regional initiative is our Chicago Metro Exports, a pilot program that includes the Brookings Institution as one of its partners. This effort has received generous support from J.P. Morgan Chase, the MacArthur Foundation, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, among others. We launched this effort about a year ago to help small and mid-sized firms reach new international markets. We have already provided microgrants to over 54 small businesses that help them take to the next level when reaching for export markets. This program also underscores our work with metals, as it turns out, over 50% of our grant recipients are in the metal sector. You may know Northeastern Illinois is one of the freight capitals in North America and indeed the world, handling over $650 billion worth of goods annually. And yet there are more than 300 governmental units that have various processes and technologies to regulate the size, weight, and routes of trucks across the region. These regulations add hundreds of millions of dollars to the cost of transporting goods and frustrate shippers, truckers, and customers alike. So although truck permitting and routing may not sound like an exciting or sexy topic, it is a critical issue and impacts the transportation, distribution, and logistics sectors, as well as all other activity that is dependent on the efficient movement of goods across and through the region. Working with Cambridge Analytics, we have begun a regional effort to harmonize truck permitting across the region and develop a shared vision that will address the needs of industry, counties, municipalities, and state agencies. So that brings us to what's next for the Bureau in 2016. Well, we're going to continue to lead the county's economic and community development activity in a coordinated fashion. To complement our regional strategy, we're going to look at subregions to make sure that they are connected to our larger economy. We all know that there are communities struggling in Cook County, and our goal is to work with them to engage in more focused economic development planning. We can only have success at a region if we ensure that everyone contributes to and benefits from our economic growth. Since we know the economy is an integrated whole, we can't afford to waste any of its parts. I hope you now have a better sense of what Cook County government does in terms of economic development. I've given you only an overview of the Bureau's tools and strategies and our vision for regional growth. Cook County is a critical force not only for our communities, but for the Midwest to compete in the global marketplace. Much work remains to be done, and we expect to have a very busy 2016 working with all of you. One additional and increasing frequent role we play is as convener. We found that collaborations and partnerships often grow out of simple convenings, and partnerships lead to greater economic output. So once again, thank you to all our partners, which include businesses, chambers of commerce, foundations, sister agencies in government at all levels, colleges and universities, and economic and community development organizations. Indeed, as I look around the room and realize just how many of our partners are present here today, I realize that while I've been asked to speak about the work that Cook County is pursuing, in many ways, I'm speaking about what we are all doing collectively. Lastly, but certainly not least, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I have a terrific staff at all levels, and I'm very grateful for the work they do, and they're here today. So I'd ask them to stand and be recognized, and a round of applause. So with that, I close, and I say thank you to everyone.
Well, I doubt if there are any questions. You either work with them or you work for them. But if you do, who do we have? City Club Amanda there. Do your pose. She did it. Thank you, Miss Amanda. This is from Graham Grady. You're beginning to get on my nerves. A question that I don't mind the fact that we're fellow von Steubenites, but I do mind that your name of your affiliation is Taft Law. No Northwest Siders. They don't know. Here we go. What was it about your upbringing? If you remember, we had Treasurer Summers, and he asked a question, what was the question you would not want to answer? That was his question. Now we have the same one for you, Mike, but a little different version. What was it about your upbringing that caused you to be interested in a career in public service? Take around 5 minutes.
Well, first of all, I'd like to start that what Graham's question doesn't identify is that he's a very active member of our Economic Development Advisory Committee and a very important force in the work we do. So we're very appreciative of the work Graham does. Well, I think as the President pointed out, I grew up in the city of Chicago on the southwest side in the back of the arts community. And I was very fortunate that one of the things my father was very engaged in was showing us around the city. So in fact, probably unlike a lot of kids that may grow up in other places, or certainly those that grew up in the city, know, and I knew how to ride the L and the buses and get around to downtown and things like that, long before I may have known a lot of other things when I was 9, 10 years old. So we're constantly exploring the city. That, of course, in turn made me very interested in the built environment and what cities are like and how they operate and how they work, and a unique focus on that. So that had an immeasurable effect. I studied architecture at Princeton, and at the end of the day, decided I was more interested in how things work in terms of cities than how they look, although I do remain profoundly interested in that as well. So I definitely think it was my upbringing in the city, and there's no better testing ground for that than the city of Chicago or Cook County or the region in which we live.
All right. Leon Walker, Commissioner, Roseland Medical District. The far south side is in competition with Northwest Indiana for expanding industrial users. How can the county help attract and retain these businesses? Would a regional economic authority help?
So that's a bit of a loaded question, but I'll attempt it. Obviously, the south and the south side, both of the city as well as our southern suburbs, are a critical asset. One of the things that we are focused on, as I mentioned, is working at the sub-regional level and tying our sub-regions into the greater economy. There are unique assets in what I would broadly call the Southland that aren't going to move. We often say, for instance, that the Chicago area is the convergence of we're the crossroads of the nation. Well, to be clear, most of that crossroads happens in the southern portions of the city of Chicago, South Suburban Cook, and in Will County. It happens other places, but we have to be cognizant of that asset. So we are keenly focused on working with our communities across the Cook County in terms of helping to position them. We work very extensively in working with the mayors and village managers in those communities to better use our tools, whether those are tax incentives, whether those working with the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership to bring resources to the region. And we know we need to focus on that. One of the things we also need to focus on is how we market overall those assets that are uniquely positioned in the Southland for overall economic development. And long-term, hopefully, as a region, we'll coalesce around a broader vision that isn't just based on discrete boundaries of Illinois, Indiana, or Wisconsin, Indiana. But right now, we're going to focus on that which we have greater opportunity to focus on, and we're very much with our partners. I know we have a number of representatives from South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association here today, who's a very important partner. But whatever we do, we're going to be doing it very much in partnership, because while we at the county can lead, we can't own such initiatives, and it's very important that we have the buy-in of businesses, residents, institutions in all these communities, and make sure that we connect these communities to a broader economy and growth.
Good answer. Round of applause.